So Wall Street has done it again. Welcome to the weekend stock talk on October 13th. I usually do the weekend stock talks on Sunday, but I wanted to do it on Saturday just to give you guys some days to ponder before market open on Monday. Now, remember in Thursday night's analysis, our last stock talk, we talked about how we were below the 50 moving average and that the probability that we will see a green day on Friday would outweigh the probability that we will see a red day on Friday. There were several factors. We were below the moving averages on the 3-year chart, so we needed to recover that. Chances are we were going to recover that. And second of all, we were significantly oversold. What did we do on Friday? Yes, we had a pretty significant up day. We saw the NASDAQ index outperform the other markets, right? It went over 2% on the NASDAQ. So the question is, where are we going to go from here? And that is a big question. When I first started this video, I talked about, that the Wall Street has us really in a position in its crosshairs, because the Wall Street's job is really to keep us guessing. And right now, if you go to perhaps any forum, any videos, people talking about the stock market, it's a split 50-50. There are 50% in which we have bearish people talking about potential market crashes. I think that's to the extreme. And there are bullish people who says, buy the dip right now, because what's going to happen is we are going to get pretty much a zip line back to the upside, and this is the time to take the opportunity because everything is oversold. Those are the two positions. Okay, so here's the take about this, right? No one knows for certain which way it's going to go. So let's just look, in my opinion, as objectively as possible, looking at the charts. What does the chart tell us? You give this chart to anybody and you say, hey, someone on the, hey, friend who never does the stock market, can you please take a look at the stock market trend? This is where we are right now. What do you think is going to happen, predictably in the next few days to weeks? And you give this them their chart. They're like, well, right now it obviously seems like it's going down. So perhaps, in the past when we've came down, perhaps stayed still, we might do the same thing around this area. Maybe this is the beginning of a bottom. And in my opinion, that is perhaps the most reasonable statement that anyone can take out of this, is that perhaps this is the bottom, but how much weight can we give it? Not too much, but perhaps, because at the very least, we didn't come down on Friday. We recovered the moving average. So first of all, I'll show you guys what I mean by the moving average. We are looking at, let me take you guys to let's take you guys to the 20-year weekly chart. So here's the 20-year weekly chart, but let's focus in on pretty much the more near term, right? And you guys can see, here's the 50-period moving average. We've tapped it once right here. We tapped it twice. Yesterday on Thursday night when we did the video, we were below it, right? We rapidly recovered by the end of trading day Friday. Was that a surprise? Perhaps if you were caught up in the moment, it was a surprise, right? If you were, for example, looking at intraday pattern at the S&P 500 and it was below this level, you were caught as a surprise. But then look at this rapid recovery on Friday. We recovered the moving average. And that was the likely scenario, right? The markets isn't going to give us, in my opinion, a very telltale sign that, hey, we're going to close below the 50-period moving average. Hence, there's no more guessing left, and we are just going to go down from here. The markets don't like to do that. The markets love to keep us guessing. Hence, the Wall Street is doing its job. Is it doing its job right now? It's perfect right now. Who's guessing? We are guessing. But that's why we're looking at technicals, right? Because when we're looking at technicals, we don't want to be guessing, but we want to find perhaps some valid trends that we can work off of to take a look at the major direction. Regardless, let's take a look at the 20-year and look at this trend, right? Objectively speaking, right now is perhaps a good entry time if you look at the 20-year chart. If you guys just take half of this and look at the 10-year chart, you would say, objectively, this is a good entry point. But of course, if you look at the 20-year chart, what are you investing in? A few years along the lines, right? If you are, investing in right now and you're looking at long term, you're saying this is a great dip buying opportunity. I don't care which way it goes in the next few days to weeks to months. Hence, I'm just going to write it out, whatever happens, because chances are in 1 to 2 years, we are going to be higher than when we are, and we are going to be, I will have made significant money. That's a valid point of view. Now, if you're investing and you're looking for swinging or even day trading short term, a lot of volatility, right? As we have come down so significantly, our Bollinger Bands have expanded rather quickly, and hence, you guys can imagine that every single day we're moving several dollars on the S&P 500. Let's talk about technicals just a little bit on the more near term. If you're looking more near term, you're more concerned about these levels. You can see a red line, $274, which we really needed to recover in order to be above the 50-period moving average. This was a level that I talked to about people on Discord, in our chat group, right? The members of the course. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we rapidly recovered by the end of the week, right? Because we just looked at the weekly chart time frame, the weekly candles. We recovered rather dramatically. But we still see a slew of red, and I still have, and I may adjust this. Let me take a look. I may adjust this line in such that we may, in the next day, perhaps Monday, perhaps sometime next week, we may tap this level around 279 to 280. Tap it, hit it, short sell afterwards, right? Because we'll have the sellers coming in, we have shorting occurring at that period, and that could be perhaps the next leg, either to the near-term low around 270 to 271. That is a possibility. Can I see that happening? That could, okay? Another possibility is we could potentially and this is why Monday's open is also very important. I think, in my opinion, if we can open higher than where we close, there's a likelihood that we'll try to tap this area 279 to 280 in the next few days, or possibly even Monday at some point. If we open lower than where we closed today, for example, if we open at 272 or 273, then I am still looking for buyers to come in and push us back up. Okay, that's what I'm looking. So hence, I gave everyone a boxed area of around 270 to 275, 276. Those are potential areas in which I would be looking for that reversal back higher. Looking for daily closes in that area or above that area, and that would be our near-term support area, okay? Near-term support. Now, you guys can see another support line at 269.37. That is a support area. That's a very defined support area as well. It's a very strong support area from reaction lows on this area here, right? We have a gap area over here that was eventually filled down here, right? We have some reactions at that point, and if I take you guys back to the 20-year weekly chart, you guys can see how this line back down here corresponds to the low here, see, which is telling us market wants to place emphasis on that area. Now, Wall Street has us in the crosshairs, right? It's 50-50 shot in my opinion, but what could it do to really trick us into us finding a low? Everyone is watching this level, 269.40. This is not a magical number. Everyone's watching that number because we haven't tapped that yet. A couple of scenarios. The first scenario, in my opinion, is, like I said, we could at some point tap this area, right? The top, tap this area, and then come back down and re-tap this area. Now, my opinion to this is we can either come down to this area, not to the previous low, and then all of a sudden start recovering back. That's the first scenario. The second scenario is we are going to get to this level, slash under it, okay, and then recover, okay? So you guys can see how those two scenarios are slightly different because, in my opinion, Wall Street isn't going to tell us, hey, this is the support level, and what we're going to do is we're going to tap it, and then boom. So everyone is going to start buying at the area, and it's going to go up. It's going to trick us one way or another. In another way, we can see, even us hitting over the resistance, right? Going over the resistance by the end of the day, pulling significantly lower. That's also a sign that here's the initial up move, or the FOMO move, right? Fear of missing out. The upper move, it goes high significantly and it sells up by the end of the day, crushing every long that's in the position, and then it starts going lower, right? And possibly we could even go below the previous low. That's a possibility, but my point is, we are in a precarious situation right now, and if you can't day trade in this environment, it's difficult to pinpoint a swing trade. But at the very least, I gave you guys a range of possible support areas, right? Now you guys might be asking, Kevin, what is this down here? This is another gray box. That's another range, but by that point, you guys can imagine if we're down there at some point, and then if that occurs, I don't see that happening. Okay, nothing in the market's telling us that we will get down there just yet, because we haven't even hit this support line, my major support line over here, right? Haven't hit that. So, but if we get down there, we'll get down there. We'll talk about that specific area when we get there, right? But for now, more concerned about the more near-term trend if you are swinging near-term. So, what's my moral of the story? Day trading is okay, right? Because you can get in and out of the position quickly. Swing trading, especially short-term swing trading, extremely, extremely risky. Because let's say you went into a stock, let's just talk about the number one stock on my list on the top is Square, okay? You saw this candle, you saw this push up, you went in Square, let's say when it was up 5 or 6%, really around midday, or by the end of the day, let's say you went in. Aren't you playing your chances at that point where we could possibly come down, retest, and then move higher, or possibly come higher and then move down, right? Aren't you playing just trying to guess at which trend it's going to go to? How do you know this is the low? How do we know that this is the low? It might be, but we just don't have enough candles or enough evidence to tell us, to justify this big move and that we're going to pop straight up, right? That's, in my opinion, unlikely to happen. But regardless, you guys can see that my trend lines are all pointing to some sort of recovery as of now. Okay, that might change, but as of now, I'm pointing to some sort of recovery in the next few weeks, perhaps towards the end of the year. So hence, I hope that helped. I know this was a lot of jibber jabber back and forth. Talk a little bit about the course, because one of you guys on Facebook, thank you for commenting on that, was can you talk more about the chat group that I have made? So in the course, there's a link to a Discord chat group, and in that chat group, I'm especially in these volatile days, I'm kind of actively communicating with the members and showing people various levels that interest me intraday or in the long term. So I post a lot of pictures, I post like the volume, I post different trend lines as they were adjusted really on an intraday basis, right? Because you guys can imagine when we were cracking the support lines, I was looking for areas of major supports, right? And that's where we were looking for. So that's the Discord chat. I know Discord is available on the PC, on your phone, so and I'm actively communicating. So we got quite a bit, a good portion of members talking into the Discord chat and communicating back and forth. That's what it's all about. It's not only about me providing analysis, it's really about everyone and a teamwork environment in terms we form the best possible trade at perhaps the best possible time. Nothing is going to be for certain, guys, in these conditions. Nothing is for certain, and you guys can imagine in these conditions, in these market conditions, what is it really all about? Risk management. It's all about risk management. Are you going to play into the hype or fear of missing out, or are you going to be too greedy or fearful that it's going to go down, right? That's the balance that you have to shift your mindset towards. Which way, which direction are you going to shift itself as objectively as possible, and how much of your account are you willing to put into that specific position? Like I said in the past, right? If you're looking at the 20-year chart, you're like, man, this is nothing, right? Here's the 20-year monthly chart, which let me show you guys the 20-year monthly chart, which obviously this month hasn't concluded yet, right? But if you look at the 20-year monthly chart, this is obviously obviously going on an uptrend. You give this 2 years and chances are we're going to be above the previous high, right? Just looking at this trend. And hence, it depends on your mindset. Remember, the more near term the mindset, the more, in my opinion, your risk increases. The more long term your mindset, the more your risk decreases. And that's just how it is for the markets, right? So yeah, that's the S&P 500 for you guys. Let's take a look at volatility. I hope I clarified about the chat group. And yeah, when the markets were pushing higher, we don't have to chat that much on the chat group, right? Because that's generally markets like to move higher, right? It's only when periods of volatility that when we come out and, kind of talk about various levels. And it's very interesting. We were talking about the small caps. We talked about the NASDAQ, talked about the Dow like crazy. So yeah, that was very interesting. Hopefully that helped for you guys. So here's TVIX for volatility. So volatility, I'll show you guys intraday. And here's something that's rather interesting. 5-day, 5-minute chart. You guys can see this gap fill area that we've satisfied. We came up, we had another high, and you guys can see this rapid fire selling that occurred near the latter half of the day, right? For volatility, we closed at around $41. So likely on this chart, what you're seeing right now is, perhaps, okay, a topping area in which we have a resistance. And I'm going to let's move this resistance line just a little bit higher to satisfy this resistance level of around $48, okay, which is, that's our near-term resistance. So looking at this chart, you guys can see that, this could potentially push higher if markets dip, right? But just based off of this candle, can you say that volatility is all the way going to go back to $30? No, you can't. You just can't say that right now, right? Looking at the VIX, it's pretty much, mimicking what you're seeing on TVIX, right? You're looking at this, you're like, we're feeling a kind of tail candle at the resistance, but is it likely to go to 17 or less in the next few days? It's a little bit unlikely, right? After this kind of spike, you won't, in my opinion, you won't expect that quick of a downtrend. Now, if we do see something like that, then okay, so be it. But we'll have to be monitoring it really starting after market tomorrow, or during when the futures open tomorrow to when we open on Monday. That's gonna, in my opinion, when we open on Monday, that's already going to be a big factor of where we're going to be standing, right? Where we open at that point. If we open neutral, what's going to happen? The market's going to keep us guessing for that day in the beginning, at least. So that's for you guys. Gold futures. Okay, 4/GC. Let's talk about gold. So gold, you guys can see I was waiting for, there's the impulsive move higher, right? We closed higher. Waiting for a retest of the possible support area. You guys can see I boxed this in this boxed range. I know on Thursday night I said I wanted a retest of around perhaps 1220 around the area. Did we hit the 1220 mark? I believe we did. You guys can see that we came down to 1220. We retested it, came back up. But in my opinion, and my patient self, in my opinion, maybe too patient sometimes, but when I really want a retest of this support level, this boxed area from around, ranges from 1212 to around 1220. I want to see some sort of tail candle, some sort of retest by the end of the day. It just hasn't happened yet. After a move of, I think, JNUG, which follows 4/GC, went over 15% that one day on Thursday. It's got to cool off a little bit. And I said that, would we be surprised if it came down a little bit? And we wouldn't be surprised. And that's the case. In my opinion, I just want some sort of reconfirmation of the support at that area. So waiting for that 4/GC. If it kicks me in the gut in the next few days because I didn't enter today or Friday, then so be it. But I want a little bit more to play out. 4/GC. 4/CL crude oil futures. Now, crude oil, you guys can see, once again, I told you guys, if the markets push higher on Friday, crude oil can have a semi-bounce off of the lows, right? Because we've fallen dramatically this was like over 1% move or 2% move at one day, right? The markets were falling, crude oil prices were falling, and you can see how the market recovered. What did crude oil do, right? It recovered just a little bit, but you guys can see it tried to tap the 20-period moving average, wasn't able to, but we have a near-term support at 70.50. The golden question in this case for crude oil is again, what trend are we going through? What is occurring at this point in time? Let me just show you guys, here we are, right? We tapped the upper range of the resistance line of 76.36 and came on down. Is that the high? Well, looking at this candle, and looking at this is still an uptrend. Can you guys see that? This is still an uptrend, right? Have we broken the uptrend on a technical basis, on a weekly basis? No, we have not. So, I think short-term downtrend, long-term, we could still potentially see higher prices for crude oil, right? So, because you guys can imagine here, what happened, right? We came down. Was this a reversal for crude oil? Back to the downside. No, it wasn't, because we immediately, this wasn't immediate, but after a few weeks, when we found this near-term support again, we came back higher. Isn't that interesting? And guys, you know that I don't shift these trend lines unless I tell you, like, hey, I'm talking about this new trend line over here, right? But this is still on an uptrend. So this is still looking, short term, might come down next week. Sure it can, right? But in the long term, that one's, the deciding factor, 4/CO. All right. What's next? Do we have any more? Natural gas, right? Okay. So 4/natural gas, taking you guys to the yearly chart. And natural gas, this is an interesting pattern. Here's our target, in my opinion, is around 3.40. It might get to around 3.419. And now we close below my support line again. And, this is once again similar to crude oil. If you guys imagine, it's similar to crude oil's chart, in which we've been going up, 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 right? And recently we've been falling. This is signaling a potential reversal back to the downside, right? It is signaling a potential reversal back to the downside. Now, you guys can see when we had 3 red candles in the past, this was in fact a resistance area. Can you guys see that? 3 candles that's pretty much slanted lower, okay? So 3 candles that slanted lower. Can you guys see how we tried to recover, failed, and come back down? Okay. So, if you guys are interested in this sort of pattern or shorting natural gas, then DGAZ, if you weren't in it already back up there, it was hard to tell. This is not an easy chart to digest where a possible reversal pattern could have occurred for natural gas, right? Our target was 3.400. We didn't reach our entire target. We didn't fill the entire gap, and we came on down. So, it's not easy, but if you were in it and you were thinking about potentially shorting at the high where your risk, in my opinion, is, you might think the risk is highest, but, where your risk level, if you could manage your risk level up here and you were shorting it, then your ticker to take a look would be DGAZ, or this is inverse natural gas, right? So if natural gas goes down, DGAZ goes higher, and there it is, right? We hit a 13. And the question is, would you have bought in at the low around 1310 to 1330? Let me tell you, for most people, you wouldn't have been interested from 1310 to 1330. That is just how it is. Why would you go in this declining pattern, right? Chances are, and let me tell you, for the majority of people, including me, I would not have gone in from this range. From this range, and perhaps I can even make this line a little bit better, but around that range, we would not, in my opinion, I would not have gotten in at this kind of range, right? Because it's sloping so much downwards. Why go on into a falling trade, right? Why? Right? Doesn't make sense. Even here, you can see that, up, gap down, right? Even if you were guessing correctly back here, you got in at the very bottom. You're like, yes, I got it correctly. And then the next day, you completely lost everything. And there it is. So, that's for it for DGAZ. Let's take a look at a couple of your tickers. once again, I appreciate everyone for watching these videos. Hopefully these help in terms of the thinking that is involved right now. The thinking that is involved right now. And, you know, whether you're bullish, bearish, or staying on the side, in my opinion, this is my opinion only, you guys know how to do this, the best position is really to stay on the side. If the markets recover all the way back to the upside, you know, so be it. But and if it goes down, so be it as well, right? So want to let it play out. Give me more information to work with. This isn't enough to work with. So that's what I'm waiting for. You know, I might take some starter positions into some entry areas, but you guys know, I pick my positions very carefully before I go in. So yeah, so guys, if you guys enjoy these videos, please hit the thumbs up button or the like button. Highly appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone for watching these videos and taking your valuable time during the weekend to watch these videos. Whether you're watching on weekend or weekday, it's all great. So keep it up. What are we doing right now? Let's talk about one of your tickers that was called out on the YouTube comment section. Ben, what's your thought on SAIL, S-A-I-L? So, all right. So let me just tell you, almost not every, but the majority of the stock will have a trend that looks like this. It's a bottoming at some sort of moving average, you know, at some point, and that we recovered because the markets were oversold and recovered. So a lot of the analysis is going to be similar. It's going to be similar because, you know, if you feel that this is the bottom, you could certainly take a position on it. And that's just my opinion. You don't have to, but you could. Looking at this is a steady uptrend. Where are we? Have we gone significantly oversold? Yes, we can. Can you take a position on it? Yes, you can if you wanted to, because we are so still in the oversold condition. So this one went up 6%. Thoughts? What are my thoughts on this? It's looking good. You know, are you going to put 100% of your account into this stock? I hope not. But, you know, monitoring the market's movement as well as this one, I think there is more potential upside in this, especially if you're holding in the long term. In the short term, you might see some upside as well, but I think overall that's good. You know, this is on a good uptrend. It's severely oversold at this point. Here's the 150 period moving average. You know, looking. Thank you, Ben. I like it. You, good morning and hello. How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Rico, I just sold BILI for $13.58. I made some money today, Rico. Great job. And this is what it's all about. You know, you're making some money. And guys, in this environment, if you can just make a little bit of money, congratulations. You do not have to look for a huge gain. If you're looking for that huge gain, as much as that huge gain can play out, that's how much you can lose in one day as well because of these volatile swings. Keep that in mind. 8% up in one day could result in 6% down another day. Could result in another 4% down another day. Just be, you know, wary. But Rico, look at this chart, right? Good job. If you sold it on this uptrend, no problem. Yes, it gapped higher to 1371, right? You sold at 1358. Do you have to capture the high? No, you don't, right? Because you got money. That's all that is in this environment. You got it, come out of it. That's it. Good. GERP. Preet. Hey, Kevin, I appreciate all your genius. I've been using VWAP lately and was wondering if you have any stock picks with which I could use VWAP intraday trading. Big fan. So thank you for that. So yeah, VWAP is a little bit for intraday trading. And the thing about this is if you're using the VWAP, and I don't know, let's take a look at the, you know, BILI, for example. It might work. It might work. You guys can imagine if the VWAP is curving higher, right? And then we have a middle VWAP and then we have a bottom VWAP, right? The thing about VWAP is when something's going higher and it's progressively getting higher and higher and more higher, right? You guys can know that the candles can stick at the top of the VWAP. And if it's a steady trend higher, it can stick near the top the entire time. Sometimes it'll dip. In this case, you guys can imagine perhaps the VWAP is dipping lower, it dipped to the middle. You know, you could think about that playing a factor into your intraday trading style, but the big picture has to be what the overall markets are doing. That's what we should be keeping an eye on. In my opinion, the individual stocks are, for the most part right now, going to be following the market's direction. So keep an eye out for that. And VWAP would be an interesting indicator to look at intraday. All right, Elliot, could you please give me my analysis on Teva? Thanks and love your videos. So Teva, let's take a look. So, okay, so for Teva, found near-term support around 2044. Okay, so for this trend, are we oversold? Yes, similar to the previous position, we are oversold. But you guys can see we do have this area of a support 1961 potentially, right? At the same time, the problem with this is, this is a declining pattern. Can you guys see how that's a declining pattern right here? Here's your resistance area. So while we are oversold, perhaps this is not the best one to get into unless you know something we don't. And unless you feel like there's some sort of catalyst in the near future. This is a pharmaceutical company. Whatever catalyst, perhaps they're coming out with a new drug or whatnot, research that's coming out that's going to positively influence the stock to push higher, then you could think about it. But I'm not favoring this kind of chart at the moment. So that's that. Thank you for your submission, Teva. Rocky, great analysis. Appreciate it. Karar, very interesting. Yep, very interesting indeed, right? Looking at technicals. Trader Princess, let's take a look at Neo again, the stock that went IPO. Neo, what can you do with this chart? Not much, right? We talked about looking at this chart and saying, what can we really do with this chart? And the answer was no, right? When we had this Neo uptrend, right? When we popped above and you guys can see we sold off. I talked to everyone on that day because someone called out the ticker Neo that, if people were talking about holding Neo, okay, telling you that, guys, this, right? People were talking about holding Neo on this day, on this day, on this day, this day, this day, this day, this day, all the way down to perhaps this day and this day. Okay? They were talking about holding Neo. In these three relatively boring days, were you going to buy into Neo at this point? And let me just tell you that the majority of people would not have bought in these three areas because who knows if it would dip lower, number one, right? And this move 4 days ago was near the end of the day. And even in the beginning of the day, would you have had the patience to hold on? That's a question you have to answer. And another thing is, you hold here, you buy in here, you buy in here, you buy in here, you buy from here to here. Anytime you bought in from all the way up here, you would have lost money by now if you had kept it. Lost money. So what's the rationale of buying into such a stock? There is none. There is none. You're just playing into a potential hype that when it starts dropping, it drops and you're squeezed out of the game. Not even a game. You're squeezed out at a big loss, depending on how much you put in. Not worth looking, in my opinion, at this point. Even if it goes higher, guys, why would this one interest me? Right? So far, we don't even have that much technicals to work with, number one. But even if it goes higher, so be it. But, that's just... It's just a scenario in which, you have to know more about the company itself than looking at trends in that case. Thank you for your ticker submission, Trader Princess. Okay. We'll take a look at RTRX. What is this? A very stable pattern, great support level. So you guys can see for RTRX, we've broken down between a higher high pattern on the yearly chart. And we broke down, we sold off rather dramatically, and now we're back here. So what can we do? We can certainly get near 20 period moving average. We can perhaps test the high of this, this breakdown area. And what? possibly get rejected and come on down. But this is a broken pattern as far as we're looking at. So, you know, that's that. RTRX. And okay, guys, I'm gonna tackle. That's all the tickers I'm tackling. If I didn't get to your ticker, I do apologize. Gotta make this video, try to be as succinct as possible. It's already pretty long. If you want me to tackle your ticker, be sure to resubmit your tickers in the comment section down below. I want to thank everyone: Addyboy, Synthartist, Salcara, Brolic, Rico, Brook, K9, Josh, McCombs, everyone. Thank you so much for commenting and watching these videos. Pay special attention to futures tomorrow. Every day next week, in my opinion, to the end of the month, will be a very interesting day. Every single day, you know, every day will potentially have high volatility. It doesn't have to be high volatility to the downside. It can be high volatility, as you guys can see, to the upside as well. So keep that in mind, and I'll see you guys and everyone on Monday. All right, happy trading.